Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, good Sunday afternoon. Thanks for being here. Thankful for everybody that's here. Thankful for all my channel members. Thankful that people will tune in. This is a very um, it's a very it's a very tough topic. And so before we get too far into it, I want to give the notifications a chance to go out. I want a big thank you to my permanent in memoriam show producer, Ryan Schultz. His generosity and his thoughtfulness and his compassion for his family made it possible for them to be able to partner with the channel in a massive way. And I want to give honor to Ryan for his sacrifice in that regard. And he has earned, um, Ryan has earned those show producer credits by doing that. And his family was blessed by him, and his family has now continued to bless others because of him, and I have been the recipient of that blessing. So thank you, Ryan, for thinking of your families and allowing them to continue your legacy. So um, channel members, thank you so much. Cannot thank all of you enough for what you do. We had Braden, who came over from seeing my short with Detective Matt Thornton, and Braden has become a channel member, one of our most recents. If you like what I do and you want to support me, channel membership is great. If you want to partner with me, you can head over to my Give, Send, Go. I have a partnership going on through Give, Send, Go that tells us my backstory and tells you what the partnership is and what it entails. It's more than just charity. It's not just a handout. It is literally a partnership. You will have access to behind the scenes Substack writing that I'll be doing and releasing things behind my paywall there for people who give at different levels. So please check that out. So today we're going to be breaking down a law enforcement involved shooting in Cass County, Minnesota on November 16th of 2025. The subject at hand is James Weyaus, is a native First Nations individual that was involved here. I want to say out of the gate that this is not going to be a normal law enforcement breakdown for me. I'm going to end up upsetting two sides of this argument. And I'm going to set up I'm warning everyone ahead of time. If you're here strictly to see me bash law enforcement, you might get some of that. If you're here to see me bash the bad guy, you might get some of that. If you're here to see me say that all ACAB, you're not going to get that. And if you're here to say FAFO, you're not going to get that. But there are no good guys at the end of this story. None. And I'm sorry for James's family. They didn't deserve to go through what they ended up having to go through because of this and what they had to witness. The more that I and my volunteer researcher, Natalie, and big shout out to Natalie, she has done she does the yeoman's work. She makes a lot of what I do possible because she is the one who takes the time to comb through the information that we get ask me questions. What are we looking for? What are you looking for? And now she hardly even has to ask me anymore what I'm looking for, because she's just gotten to know me and work with me so well that um, she barely even needs to ask. But the more we comb through Cass County, Minnesota Sheriff's Office in particular, the more we are left with questions about their ability to function as a organization, as an agency. The old question is, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Um, and in this case, we have to ask ourselves with Cass County, Minnesota, what came first, inept behavior or corrupt law enforcement? Did the inept law enforcement lead to corrupt law enforcement, or did corrupt law enforcement foster inept law enforcement, which fosters further corruption? Because Cass County, Minnesota has to be one of the worst I have ever seen when it comes to corrupt law enforcement and ineptness. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to watch the video that I had to take frame by frame, second by second, moment by moment, and I had to put it together in a way that tells the story of what happened on the night of November 16th of 2025. Something that no other channel has done with this video. Something, if you go back and watch, I showed how Cass County Sheriff's Office released a very strategically edited, stitched together video that was meant to build as propaganda uh, the narrative of what happened that night. So be warned, this is not easy to watch. More than likely, it's going to be a demonetized video by the time this is done. So if you are watching and you want to support the work that I'm doing with this video, super chats are thankful. Memberships are appreciated. Memberships are appreciated. Sharing is an absolute must. If you are watching, I would absolutely encourage you to share this in whatever. It's not just a Minnesota thing. This is for anybody who believes in law enforcement and government accountability, and who believes in approaching it from a perspective that you have to be honest and upfront in your critique of law enforcement. You cannot come at every situation in with law enforcement, and especially law enforcement involved use of force, and assume out of the gate that every one of them is unjustified, because you will miss details if you do that. You will confirm your own bias. And as easy as it is to be comfortable in your own confirmation bias, that's not healthy and it's not accurate. So we're going to start this now. Once again, please be aware, this is not easy to watch.
We kind of area around Old Agency Trail. So, somebody maybe coming from the Robert Holmberg residence that we heard bullets go by her house.
What you're seeing here is the buffered dash cam from Deputy Cherney, who was the first one on scene. They had received a call saying from the reporting party that bullets went through the weeds by her house, and she was concerned for her grandchildren. So they are responding to this. I'm not going to give you any other backstory right now because, as I talked about with corruption and whatnot, there's so much more to the story than what takes place here. But we're going to operate with the information that we have from the county and about the situation in the moment. And the buffering allows no sound for the first 30 seconds or so. This is a Pretty normal for law enforcement body cam and dash cams. This right here is the subject. Now watch very closely here. This is Deputy Cherney. This is James Weyaus, and this is Deputy Sewall. It's coming up here. Deputy Cherney, you will see right about in this area, will pull his taser and attempt to deploy it against the fleeing subject. Right there, the taser comes out. At this point, the first shot that you heard was James firing on Deputy Cherney. So Deputy Cherney was attempting to stop him with the taser. He was well within legal standards. Under Terry v. Ohio, we can have an argument about whether or not Terry v. Ohio is legitimate law, case law or not. But under Terry v. Ohio, the courts are always going to rule that an officer is within their right, within their duty to stop you and ask you questions. You're not obligated to answer, but he had at least a legitimate Terry stop there. And that's when James fled. The taser was a less than lethal option. Probably not best advised in that moment. He's wearing a thick jacket. They're running. Tasers are notoriously inaccurate at any distance, really, especially when you're running and you're taking into consideration air movements. So even light winds can blow taser probes out of aim, and they're also not good at penetrating and relaying the electric current through thick jackets or thick clothing. But he was at least trying. So what you hear in this exchange of fire is Weyaus shooting at the deputy first. He shot at the deputy first, and the deputy returned fire. He did not hit him with any of his shots.
122-10-9. Kill! Walker, we got shots fired. Shots fired. 4 units.
Where is he?
4 units.
You have to remember, too, in this situation, this Deputy Sewall is walking into shots fired. He has no idea where the subject is. This is hair-raising. I don't care who you are. This is a very tough situation. If you've ever been in combat or been in any kind of high-stress situation, that is very difficult to walk into.
Over at Lakeside Resort, Honeymoon Road. Walker, we got shots fired. Shots fired. 4 units. Show me your hands! Stop! Show me your hands! Do it now! Walker, I got shots fired. Suspect down.
Now we're going to go back here just a hair.
Fired. Suspect down.
It's very important. Watch right in here as James comes in. He does turn and present a weapon to Deputy Donner. At this point, he also lost the firearm. The firearm ended up falling right here. That's very important. You're going to need to watch that, or be cognizant that the weapon is over here in this area. This is James. You can see that he's continuing to move. His leg is still moving. He's alive here. James is still alive right here.
105 Walker. Notify admin, please. We're on it. Everybody stay up there. Let's get on to it.
Get your fucking hands up! Get your hands up now!
Shots fired, suspect down, 703.
Roll away from the gun! Get your hands up now!
At this point,
Get your hands up!
you can barely see James is still moving.
105 Walker. Notify admin, please.
Donner is doing a good job of giving commands. We can question, is he calm and in control in the moment? I would say he's in control. I don't know if he's calm. I don't know if you would be calm in this moment. I don't know if it's professional to be yelling profanities at him, but once again, they're human beings.
We're on it. Everybody stay up there. Let's get on to it.
And what you heard there is dispatch saying is everybody stay off the air, and we're clearing the space. So they're clearing this channel for this becoming a priority 1 situation. They do not want any more traffic. They don't want anybody asking questions. They want anybody giving locations. They just want everybody to respond, balls to the wall, pedal to the metal. That's what law enforcement is going to do in these situations.
32, are you with 18?
Are you hit?
Now, we're going to have a very serious conversation as you see what happens here.
1088.
Are you hit? Are you hit?
Yeah, I'm hitting him.
Everybody stay clear of traffic. Let me know when you get there. Fire suspect down.
This is so down.
Suspect's down, bud. Hold on.
Shots fired, suspect down, 703.
Hold on.
Oh, fuck.
You all right?
My leg.
Okay.
This is tragic. He didn't deserve to be shot. The Weyaus should not have shot at him. You just don't do that. There's no reason to be shooting at cops, unless they're breaking into your house without a warrant. But you're still going to end up getting shot in those moments. However, the mistake that Deputy Seawall is making here is he has no business moving this injured man, and you're going to see how far he actually moves Deputy Cherney. This is tactically and medically first responder level, massive mistake. Not only is it a mistake, it's a complete ignoring of all first responder training. You do not move somebody who's been shot, especially when you don't know for sure where the wound is, how severe it is. You don't know if it's an arterial wound. You don't know if it's a bone penetrating wound. You don't know if he's been hit more than once. You do not move somebody who has been shot like this. You do not do that. And you're going to notice too that Deputy Cherney never holsters his weapon through all of this. So this was a bad move by Seawall. People can say what they want. He was stressed out. Doesn't matter. His first duty in this moment, especially when he just heard that the subject has been neutralized, the subject is down, his first duty in this moment should have been to render aid to Cherney on the spot. He could have very easily caused a wound like this to exacerbate, and he could have caused Cherney to bleed out by moving him the way he did. You do not take somebody who's been shot in the lower body, and we find out later on he got shot near the groin. You don't take somebody like that and move them, because the blood is going to go to its easiest exit point, and it's all going to go down to that to where he was shot. And you're going to see how bad he was wounded. So this was a bad tactical move and a bad first responder move. He needs to be retrained on first aid, critical first aid.
You want to
Hold on.
105 Walker. Notify admin, please. We're on it. Everybody stay up there. Let's get on to it. 32, are you with 18?
10-4. He's got one in the leg.
What the fuck? Dude.
Okay. All right. We got him. All right. I got 18.
He's down.
Is he down?
32.
In the leg.
You have the suspect in custody?
Suspect is down.
So now we're going to pay very close attention to Deputy Donner here and listen to what he says, because what he says here is very important.
Hey, what do you guys need? You got a tourniquet? Where's he hit?
Donner is at least thinking here, and I will give him credit for that. You got a tourniquet. It's absolutely 100% the right question to ask.
132.
Where is he hit? You have a tourniquet on?
And you can see the firearm right here. Right, just off of his body here. And now this is very important. Not only is the weapon clear of the body, the weapon has now been kicked further away from the body, which is, again, standard procedure. Standard procedure.
106 Walker. Do we know who was hit? 118 has been hit. Suspect down.
Walker, 118 is back of the squad. Suspect's clear of the weapon.
This is very important. Suspect is clear of the weapon. And now, here's what I'm going to tell you. As of this moment, this is 100% a justified shooting. If you take into consideration the Graham factors, the Supreme Court it has backed these up, and now there have been further cases. Most recently, as of 2025, there have been other cases now that have helped establish the legitimacy of the Graham factors. And one of the things that you have to take into consideration with the Graham factors is the suspect armed? Is the suspect potentially dangerous to others? If they're armed and they're fleeing, if the suspect presents a weapon to law enforcement and they are fleeing, is law enforcement able to deploy lethal force against them? And under the Graham factors, the answer is yes. So under the Graham factors, this is a good shoot. Okay? Without any other knowledge that we may or may not have about whether or not the suspect was known to law enforcement or unknown to law enforcement, where the suspect came from, we know he had a firearm. We know that he shot a deputy. He has already displayed a willingness to do physical harm to other people. So this is a clean shoot. The clean shoot is now done at this very moment. The clean shoot is 100% done. That's done. That's settled. We've already pointed out that Seawall is a tactical moron and a medical moron. He should not have been moving Cherney. Cherney was like literally flagging people with his firearm as he's like hobbling around. Once again, can't necessarily blame him. I do recommend that he probably be sent to the range on a regular basis because he did not hit the subject one time. He emptied his magazine basically, and he did not hit the subject one time. So Cherney needs a lot of tactical fire training and tactical weapons handling training. Seawall needs to be trained on medical emergency trauma first aid. 100% needs it. But we're going to go back right here. And we're going to listen to Donner one more time.
Walker, 118 is back of the squad. Suspect's clear of the weapon.
Suspect
We're code 4 right now. Everyone can slow down.
And he just went code 4. In other words, he's saying, no big deal. Everybody slow down. Don't get here. It's not an emergency. Code 4 is we're clear and in control. Okay, you have a fellow deputy that's been shot, and you have a suspect that's been shot. You're not code 4. This is still an emergency. When a deputy law enforcement gets on the radio and says, we're code 4, he's telling everybody to just slow down. We've got it under control. And you don't have it under control. Now, we're going to cover a couple of things here real quick. Okay, we're going to cover Minnesota state law. So according to Minnesota state statutes, Minnesota statute 609.662 involving the use of a discharge of a firearm. It reads, any individual who discharges a firearm or knows or has reason to know it caused bodily harm shall immediately investigate the extent of the injuries and render immediate reasonable assistance. It's a criminal statute. And it says anybody, and this is applied to law enforcement. This isn't just for you if you happen to have a permit to carry and you have to shoot somebody. This is for law enforcement. And in a Minnesota Post, Peace Officer Standards and Training actually makes this even more important. There's no wait for a supervisor. There's no wait to see what happens. You know that you've deployed lethal force against a subject and you are required to render aid. Now, it says according to the circumstances, basically. In this situation, there is another law that regarding post, and that's statute 626.8452. Use of force policy for the state. Once the scene is safe and as soon as practical, an officer shall provide appropriate medical care consistent with his or her training. Now, this is very important. We are going to see Donner do some things that shows he is properly trained on delivering first trauma aid. He's properly trained on trauma aid. And the scene is safe. He just said in his own words, the scene is safe because he said code 4. Code 4 is very clear. Code 4 has made it very clear that you don't need to hurry. You do not need to hurry. And I also want everybody to pay attention. We have not heard a single call for medical yet. Now, you would think that dispatch back at Sheriff's Office HQ in Walker would have started like an ambulance or something. You would think, but no one's called for it yet. And I also want you to pay attention to how long it takes anybody to even go over to the subject, James, and even assess whether or not he's still there. And I also want to make sure that you understand that law enforcement does not get to, in a circumstance where they're involved in the shooting, they're not allowed to ascertain whether or not the person's worthy of having first aid rendered to them. They're obligated. They're obligated to render first aid. Now, there's 3 deputies on scene. One's already wounded, but you still have 2 other deputies that aren't wounded. The code 4, when he puts that out to the ambulance, slow down also. If there's even an ambulance on the way, I would imagine the ambulance is going to still respond because they're not responding like law enforcement. They're literally responding as medical emergencies. But we don't like an ambulance. You'll see, Brian. Thanks for asking. It's a legit question. So for those there again, I've already not that it matters, but I can tell you that this is a good shoot. After the good shoot part, everything went downhill. Donner has already said, and we'll just go back here just a hair. Donner's already said
118 has been hit. Suspect down.
Walker, 118 is back of the squad. Suspect's clear of the weapon.
Donner's acknowledged the suspect is clear of the weapon.
We're at code 4 right now. Everyone can slow down.
Hey, you're okay.
Hey, Georgie.
Hey, help him. Help him get his gun in his holster.
I need it.
Hey,
You're okay. Okay. Ready my fucking nuts, dude.
Put some gloves on.
They're not concerned that Weyaus is dangerous. You look at this now, they're not at all concerned that Weyaus is dangerous. At all. And they have not, even up to this point, they still haven't called for medical, and they still haven't gone to render aid to Weyaus.
Secure that. We got a tourniquet on? No. Okay, back up. Watch him, Brian. Put some gloves on. Secure that.
So this is right here on screen. This is Cherney. Okay. He's the one that's been shot in the leg. And the one that's just off screen left here, that's Seawall. Seawall could be rendering aid to Cherney, but instead he walks him what looks like almost 200 yards away from where he was shot, which could have been a fatal mistake. You do not take somebody who's been shot, I don't care where they've been shot, and move them 200 yards to get somebody else to help with rendering aid. Seawall should be rendering aid to Cherney. Donner should be rendering aid to Weyaus. He's obligated under Minnesota state law and post to be rendering aid. He hasn't even stopped to check to see if James has a pulse yet. And you could sit here and say, well, he's watching out for his buddy. No, that's not what you do. You have one person render aid to the wounded deputy, and then the other should be rendering aid to the subject. That's your duty as a cop. That's your duty as a cop. Clean shoot. All of this is all criminal after that.
We got a tourniquet on?
No.
Okay, back up. Watch him, Brian.
Yep, I got him. There's one here.
No one yet still hasn't rendered aid. And I'll say again, you don't know that he's dead. You don't know. He could still be clinging to life. You have a duty in this moment to be rendering aid to him. You have a very clear duty to be rendering aid to him. And no one's bothered to check. And they're still covering him with a gun. Kind of.
It's right here. Oh.
And if Donner's going to be rendering aid to Cherney, then Seawall should be rendering aid instead of just standing there. They know he's clear of the gun. He's clearly not moving. Somebody needs to get their ass over there and be doing first aid on this subject, even if it's CPR.
Dude.
They have a duty to render aid. This is depraved indifference.
Right, where's this your squad?
They're treating James like crap. And this ties into Jamie Lucas, who we've been covering, who disappeared on July 3rd of 2020. Oh, yeah, and by the way, the guy who just shot James Weyaus is the same guy who was chasing Jamie Lucas through the undergrowth and waving his gun around at him. 6 years later, this guy still hasn't learned his lessons. And this is a clean shoot, but he isn't rendering aid. Why? Because this guy is a bad guy and he doesn't deserve it. Should he have shot Deputy Cherney? No. But at this point, you now treat him like a human being. They completely and utterly animalized him, treated him like a less than human piece of trash, and left him laying there on the road, dying. That's an ethical problem, let alone a legal problem. They have a duty to render aid to him. Every cop in the state of Minnesota, every cop across the United States knows you have a duty to render aid. And I could show you video after video after video after video. I watched 3 of them today while I was working out. I watched 3 of them just to make sure I wasn't imagining things, where cops had to use lethal force on subjects, and their first response, the minute that they did it, was to secure the scene and then render aid. Immediately, from the person who just tried to harm them, who tried to end their lives, they begin to render aid. This is a moral and ethical failing in the Cass County Sheriff's Office, and this lies squarely on the shoulders of their fat-ass sheriff, Brian Welk. This is not inept. This is corrupt, inhumane behavior. They are letting this guy go because they don't care. And I don't care if you're a back the blue type. You can say what you want, but it's unethical, it's immoral, and it's against Minnesota law for them to treat him this way. And now you have 2 fat pieces of crap. Seawall's large and Donner's large. You can hear it. One of them standing there doing nothing while the other one's rendering aid to the wounded, when one of them should be over there on this subject, on James, doing their level best to keep him alive. But they don't care. So it's very important that people understand how blatantly inhumane this was.
What leg? This one?
And I also want to point out too that like Donner shows that he knows how to use a tourniquet. Why the hell have they not had this guy lay down yet? Why are you putting a tourniquet on someone who's been shot in the leg while he's freaking standing, you morons? Do you not have any idea what you're doing? You clearly do know what you're doing, but you're not doing it well. And you could sit here and say, well, it's high stress situation. I don't care. That's where your training kicks in and takes over, you dumbass. First, you got one fat cow moving this wounded deputy almost 200 yards with a serious leg wound. Now pointing his weapon at someone who should be getting chest compressions at the very least and rescue breathing. And another fat cow has got this guy with the leg wound standing up next to a squad. They never do put him on the ground, by the way. Spoiler.
There's one here. Stupid stuff with this. Walker, start air care at our location.
And now he said, Walker, start air care to our location. But still, no one has gone over and even checked James for a pulse. And by the way, I'm going to add this, very important again. Law enforcement does not get to determine a person is deceased in this moment. They do not have the authority to say he's beyond help. It's one thing if you come up on a body that's weeks old, you can say, yeah, deceased, you're not obligated to like render aid. But in this situation, when you're the one who shot, you know that there is a chance that this guy could still be alive. And the fact that he just called for air care, that's life flight. That's the first we've heard radio traffic about starting medical. And he's only starting medical for Deputy Cherney. Because if he was starting it for Weyaus, he would have called for it much earlier. And once again, I'm just going to remind you, no one has checked James for a pulse.
Okay. Fuck. fucking hurt.
It fucking hurt.
Here, bud.
Oh, dude.
All right, where's this your spot?
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they still haven't blurred out James's body, but they blurred out his bullet wound. At some point, I don't even understand. I mean, to some degree, and I hate to say this, we're fortunate that they haven't, because not having James's body blurred out becomes very important here in just a minute. But this agency has all of their priorities are just cattywampus. There's nothing about this agency is like screwed in tight.
Okay. You're good, bud. Here, just come back here.
I'm just gonna keep asking why haven't we laid him down yet?
Unlock your squad, bud.
You don't even set
Where's
him
your
down
keys?
in the car. You lay him down. You prone him out.
Yep. Under code 4, we'll take them immediately.
Oh, my body.
And you think Seawall's fat. You should see
Yeah, we're
pictures of
code 4,
Brian.
we'll
Wall.
take them.
This guy's smaller than the sheriff.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to make the joke.
Sit tight for 1 sec. I think I got that tourniquet high enough.
I'm so weak tonight.
Are you okay?
No, are you okay? No, I just got shot in the leg, you fat joke of a human being. I'm not okay. Now we're going to blur out James. And he's handcuffing them, and I have no problem with that.
132, you will be ground contact, STAT2.
And you can hear he's still putting cuffs on him, so he's not checking him for his pulse. He's not rendering any aid.
Okay. He's in cuffs.
So watch what happens here. We're very fortunate that they didn't blur this out. Well, I shouldn't say didn't. They do. He moved him. Not only did he cuff him, he moves him, and he is not rendering aid. He rendered no aid. If he did check for a pulse, he barely checked for a pulse.
Okay. He's in cuffs. I need a light, Brian.
Why he moved him as much as he did and didn't render any aid, I do not know. But they've already determined in their own minds that he's deceased, and they don't care that he's deceased. They do not care at all.
Aren't you?
The American Fork of Wisconsin. Well, it's Minnesota, but yeah, fair point. Fair. Except, I think these guys may actually be more inept and more corrupt than American Fork. And you guys can see how much blood Kearney's lost. And he's going to put another tourniquet on him?
Slow down in there. 142 is en route. If you want to get a hold of more investigators, send them this way. And we'll just get a hold of these as well.
Quick clot. If you don't know what quick clot is, it's literally a powder.
I gotta take your belt off, okay?
Still not laying him down.
I got it.
somebody.
32, do you want air carry to the center there? Should I set up, like, for them?
Now what you see is just off to the screen right there. You just saw Seawall finally put his firearm away, his sidearm away. You could see here at the bottom of the screen how much his body has been moved. And he's even further out in the road than he was before. No one has taken time to, like, at this point, Seawall has just completely dismissed James's body. He could have at least gone and put his squad across the road and blocked traffic. And they shouldn't be waving traffic through. They should have stopped all traffic. All traffic should have stopped. All of it. And they're just letting them by. Just let them by. No, traffic should have been stopped and turned around at this point. These people have no idea what they're doing. They're just absolute utter fools. And that's why I said at the beginning, what came first? The corruption in Cass County or the inept Three Stooges type mentality of Keystone Cops type mentality of approaching law enforcement? And if it was the inept law enforcement mentality, that bred corruption, because the more inept they get, the more they have to cover up their ineptness, which is corruption. And the more corrupt they get, the more inept they get, because nobody's holding them accountable for anything. But he literally pulled his body further out into the road. Hey, people driving by, hope you don't mind seeing somebody's, shot up body on the side of the road as you drive by. No trauma for you. That's fine. And remember, he said code 4, which was just him telling them, slow it down. Don't worry about it. Slow down. I mean, how many cars have gone by? Let me see. Honey. Yeah, sure, you betcha. That looked like a body right there. And this, I mean, Cherney, right? Like, I actually feel really bad for Deputy Cherney right here. Nobody's treating him medically the way they should be treating him. Like, they should have cut that pant leg off. They should have been like.
One turn it 7 minutes ago, second being applied.
And I feel really bad for James's family here. Like, James bought a ticket for a ride. And he took the ride. And it's terrible to say it that way, but I mean, he purchased the ticket and he got on the ride. And he paid the ultimate price for it. But what I feel bad for the family is to see their loved one, and even though they might have to face the reality that James did try to kill a law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota, they completely treated him like an animal, which is a complete violation of the law. A complete violation of the law. I've demonstrated that. It's so disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
No, it's off.
Yeah, and Brian, our newest channel member, he said, it's just roadkill. What are you getting so upset about? Dead deer, dead human. What the hell is it?
Next to my screen there. On the ground, there's like a, no.
And I want to point out, too, that this is Cherney that you hear in the car now talking. He's still not laying down. Now, he's fortunate that he's still conscious. Leg wounds like that can be very severe. And you can bleed out quite fast, even with the tourniquet on. The fact that he hasn't lost consciousness yet is absolutely mind-boggling to me. I don't know if in the moment he realized how severe this is. And I understand that he wants to make a phone call and call his significant other and let her know what's going on. But like somebody should have shut him down immediately. They should have completely taken all of his equipment off of all of it and put him on the ground, not sitting in a car. These people are utter idiots. Watch this. What you're about to see here, ladies and gentlemen, is nothing less than tampering with a crime or with evidence. This is nothing less than tampering with evidence. And not only has he not rendered aid, as he's obligated to do under the law, he is about to move a deceased individual that he killed. Instead of securing the scene and blocking all traffic and leaving James, because he's already decided he's dead, and leaving James' body where it was, he's now going to watch this. He's searching him. He's fucking searching. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to swear. He's searching his body. He's not rendering aid. Oh, yeah. Let's move him. Why? And the last thing you heard there is, hey, babe, I just got shot. Hey, Skipper, thanks for stopping by. Thank you for the super chat. Now, I want to say again, and by the way, if you're watching and if you haven't hit that like button yet, please do. If you haven't shared this out, please do. If you haven't shared this with somebody that you know that works in the Cass County Sheriff's Office, please do. Please make sure that everybody in the Cass County Sheriff's Office knows that we're diving deep into this case. And there's something in particular about this case that we're really diving into. And it's stemming from a statement that was written by the Cass County attorney. I'm not going to read the entire statement because we've already done a breakdown of the shoot. It's a clean shoot. Clean shoot. James presented a firearm to a law enforcement officer. He shot a law enforcement officer. He presented the firearm again to another law enforcement officer. That law enforcement officer was able to, with much more accuracy than Deputy Cherney, Deputy Donner did indeed neutralize the threat. After that, everything about this is wrong. Wrong. It's 100% wrong. Minnesota law requires, and we've already gone over it, and I'm not going to rehash it here. Minnesota law requires that law enforcement, and anybody else, but in particular law enforcement, because of the nature of what they do, they are first responders. They are trained in trauma first aid. I don't care what anybody tells you. There is not a single law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota that is not trained in trauma first aid. There is not a single law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota that doesn't understand that they have a duty to render aid to someone that they have to use lethal force on. And when they say the appropriate type of lethal force, that is not 20 minutes later. That's not touch his neck to see if he's got a pulse or check for an arterial pulse or carotid pulse or anything like that. That's render aid. that's equal to the level of force that was used. So if you punch the guy in the face in the middle of having to take him down because he's fighting you and he gets a bloody nose, you help him with his bloody nose. If you break his leg while you're taking him to the ground, you give him the type of aid he needs for that. If you use lethal force, then you provide the kind of trauma aid that is necessary to preserve his life, even if it means you're doing chest compressions on somebody who might later die en route to the hospital or is declared dead on the scene. That's your requirement. You don't get to say, I got to wait for a supervisor. You don't get to wait and say, I got to wait for other medical to get here. One of the two of you that's not been shot should have been doing first aid on him. To start with, primarily, Deputy Donner should have. But there's something else in this that's missing. Deputy Sewall, worthless, rendered aid to no one. He walked a man with a severe leg wound that needed a tourniquet over 200 yards, which caused that blood to pump. The deputy's just helping him walk, pumping that blood through that wound. He could have killed his fellow deputy by doing that. At no point did they ever lay him down, prone him out to help him. But Deputy Sewall doesn't do anything to render aid to anyone. He doesn't even have the intellectual know-how to secure the scene, to block traffic. Nope, they just wave people through. They just wave people through. That's it. These people are inept. And you want to know why people turn on law enforcement, or if people make jokes about cops being stupid, it's because this is what happens in some of these situations, not just these situations. Let's look at Uvalde. What happened in Uvalde? When the cops got on scene in Uvalde, they froze like cowards. And Officer Tatum defended them and said, you don't understand what the stress is like. I don't care about your stress levels. You get in there and you help the victims. And in this situation, Minnesota law requires that someone helps him. But they couldn't be bothered. And that's not just an issue of in the scene stress. As a cop, you don't get that excuse. You do not get the excuse of on-scene stress to not do your job the way you're supposed to do your job. You're supposed to be so well trained, so thoroughly trained that these things are second nature to you. They like in use of force training, they call it muscle memory. You get so trained on these things and you practice these things so thoroughly and so much that it just happens so that you don't have to think about it. It's the same thing with medical training. It's the same thing with trauma training. Yeah, we've got Skipper in the audience. Skipper is a veteran, served in combat zones. Well, yesterday he referred to himself as a fobbit. And if you don't know, you know what a hobbit is? Skipper was a fobbit. He was in a forward operating base, but he never left. That's kind of how the hobbits are with the Shire, right? So that's fobbit. Get the reference. But Skipper knows. You train on your trauma first aid so much that it's like second nature. CPR, second nature. Tourniquets, second nature. Compression wound, compression bandages, all of that. You got a sucking chest wound, you know exactly what to put on it and where, why, and how. You work on it so much. Everybody in the military is a first responder in the sense of you are the first person to render aid to your buddy. The same thing with law enforcement. You are all trained to come on scene and render first aid. You don't get to delay. You don't get to backtrack. You don't get to say, "Oh, I already knew he was dead." Yada yada yada. No, you render aid and tell somebody with the actual medical ability to say, "It's time to stop. We're coding him out." Law enforcement doesn't have that authority in the state of Minnesota. Law enforcement doesn't get to say, "Yep, I shot him and now he's dead." This is the natural outcome of an agency that is led by clowns. and has been led by clowns for a very, very long time. This is a failure of leadership. And worse than that, it's not a failure of leadership like, oh, the leaders just aren't up to the job. It is an issue, and you're gonna understand why I'm drawing this conclusion. This is a top-down, across-the-board issue for all of this agency, for all of the Cass County. Because I'm going to read to you the statement from their county attorney. When they got all the investigation articles and evidence and everything back from the BCA, here's what happened, here's what took place, taking into consideration what Minnesota state statute says. The reason that we know that this is an issue for Cass County as a whole, that it's top to bottom corruption, is the statement that I'm about to read to you from about halfway through the county attorney's decision on whether or not there were going to be charges filed against any of the deputies on scene. And he goes through and he explains why it's a justified shooting, and 98% of that I agree with. But I'm going to read to you, and then later I will be putting this up, this entire document up on my Facebook, and I will also be putting it up on X, and I will be putting it up as well on YouTube. But here is what the county attorney says. When the use of deadly force is authorized, Minnesota State Statute 609.662, we talked about that earlier, still requires that reasonable assistance be provided to a person who is known to have been shot. That statute specifically defines this to mean aid appropriate to the circumstances and includes obtaining or attempting to obtain assistance from medical personnel. After discharging his firearm and before finishing with his aid to Deputy Cherney, Deputy Donner requested air care be started to their location. Now, remember how long it took him. And listen to the spin, okay? Aid appropriate to the circumstances and includes obtaining or attempting to obtain assistance from medical personnel. If advanced emergency services were not already in play, given the nature of the incident, Deputy Donner's request ensured they would be. Now, anybody else struggling with this? If advanced emergency services were not already in play, given the nature of the incident, Deputy Donner's request ensured they would be. Why didn't that request come sooner? It is important to note that this statute imposes criminal liability only for the failure to meet certain statutorily defined minimum requirements. Deputy Donner's call for air care meets that minimum requirement because it is an objective attempt to obtain assistance from medical personnel. B as in B, S as in S, bull hockey. That is not the minimum. The minimum is rendering aid on scene while you are requesting that aid. But it gets worse. Even if the statute could be read to require more, it does not require action that would simply be theater under the circumstances. Yes, the county attorney said it would have been theater for him to do more. And here's why. Here's why it would have been theater if he was required to do more. After efforts to control Deputy Cherney's bleeding, Deputy Donner made contact with Weyaus and secured him in handcuffs. In his statement, he described Weyaus' body as lifeless. In other words, Deputy Donner immediately believed him to be dead. It doesn't matter if he believed him to be dead. He is not allowed to make that decision. This immediately apparent death of Weyaus is corroborated by several factors. First, the body camera footage shows Weyaus to be limp and unmoving when he is handcuffed by Deputy Donner. So what? Second, the autopsy report describes his injuries to include a shot traveling through his heart and pulpifying a portion of it. Such an injury, even if miraculously survivable, could not be treated. I can't. Oh, shoot. It's not letting me see if I can find it. Sorry, it didn't pull up for me the way I wanted it to. Here we go. The autopsy report describes his injuries to include a shot traveling through his heart and pulpifying a portion of it. Such an injury, even if miraculously survivable, could not be treated in the field by law enforcement. Finally, the mechanism of injury. A patrol rifle with its high-velocity ammunition would be expected to cause immediate incapacitation and death. That is why it is used over a pistol when law enforcement knows they are running toward gunfire. While one cannot know with absolute certainty why Weyaus, we completely spin to what he did here. And the issue in this is that the county attorney knows. And oh, by the way, the county attorney is dirty. He is corrupt. We are going to demonstrate that he is dirty. We're going to show you how corrupt he is in coming weeks. And by the way, county attorney, I want you to say something to me. I want you to try and say that I'm slandering you in your capacity as a public servant. I'm expressing my opinion of your actions, and my opinions are based on your actions and on data that is publicly available. So please do, by all means, sue me in my capacity as an independent investigative journalist. I would love that. Please sue me. But what he did was he used what is ostensibly hindsight by going to foresight, by saying that Donner was justified in not rendering any aid because the coroner said that it was a pulpified, a section of James's heart was pulpified and he wouldn't have been able to survive. But Donner didn't know that. And worse, the other fat pig literally didn't render any aid at all. And they were obligated to render aid. You go in there and you pump that man's heart for him until a medical professional arrives on scene. This, my friends, is why people are they're just turning on cops. They're just turning on them. It's just, we're to the point now where it's getting increasingly more difficult every single day for people to look at law enforcement and go, oh no, like by and large, they're all good guys. Like we have just in this situation, I'm going to leave Cherney out of this, his terrible aim. And by the way, you should be able to aim in high stress situations. Like you're not going to, as a cop, you're not going to be shooting people like calmly. I hope not. Like, I hope you just don't walk up and just are calmly shooting people, because that would make you a serial killer. But in these circumstances, you better be able to aim under high stress. You better be so familiar with your firearm that you're able to pull and shoot in high stress situations and hit the target that you're aiming at. He didn't hit him once. That's my critique of Cherney. My critique of Donner is he's dirty as hell. And Seawall, you're worthless as a human being. How you could sit there and not even attempt to do life-saving measures on the subject, on James, is beyond me. How you couldn't render aid in any way, shape, or form absolutely blows my mind. And for the county attorney of Cass County to sit there in his official capacity and create basically write a piece of short fiction where he gets to Benjamin Lindstrom, by the way, is his name. He gets to create this fabricated story where all of a sudden Donner is a medical expert in the field who should have known that a portion of James's heart was pulpified, and it was okay for him to move the body off the road and yada yada yada, but nobody could secure the, like, all of these things, all of this stuff. This is just Benjamin Lindstrom just covering up and covering up and covering up and covering up. And we know it's a cover up because Benjamin Lindstrom didn't do a big public announcement. It was very quiet release of this information behind the scenes. Very quiet release. There was no, hey, we're going to do a press conference. He knows that if he had released this publicly in a press conference and read that statement and made those comments the way it was, the media would have been all over him. And law enforcement and police accountability people would have been all over him. Benjamin Lindstrom covered up a criminal act. He covered up a criminal act. Donner and Sewell are depraved in their actions. Absolutely depraved. And their sheriff and the county attorney covered for him. How on earth no one can see that and agree blows my mind. And earlier, Mad Mike came on and said, but like they will see any actual repercussions for this. He said representation, but he meant repercussions. Right? And he's right. They won't. They won't see any repercussions. Because not only is the entire county structure corrupt, the sheriff is corrupt. He should have immediately terminated Donner and Sewell for their criminal behavior. Except now Welk is hiding behind, the skirts of Benjamin Lindstrom. And like I said, we've got more that shows how corrupt Welk and Lindstrom are, by the way. We can demonstrate it. We know things. So they got away with showing utter contempt and depravity and in disrespect for the law that they swear an oath to uphold. And this is why I teach so many people every day, back the blue until it happens to you. Did James Weyaus have a right to shoot at Deputy Cherney? No. That was evil and criminal. And I'm sorry, James has a very long criminal history. A very long criminal history. But does having a long criminal history make it okay to be treated that way? When the law requires that you render aid. And it doesn't. See, we're supposed to be better than the criminal elements of our society. We are. We are, as human beings, we are supposed to be better than the criminal elements of our society. And what Cass County Sheriff's Office has demonstrated in this is that they are the criminal element of our society. Except unlike the criminal element of our society, the normal criminal element of our society, they have the power of government to protect them from being held accountable. So they're going to get away with shit because government's protecting them. Their boss protects them. The county attorney is going to protect them. The county board will protect them. The BCA won't involve itself. The attorney general. Like, I've never in my life ever wanted to see Keith Ellison involve himself in a law enforcement case, because Keith Ellison doesn't know how to treat law enforcement other than to hate them for just being law enforcement. But he involved himself and then he walked away. He chose not to stay involved. And could the FBI get involved? I don't know. Could we look at civil rights violations for this? See, this links back directly to Jamie Lucas's case, because Deputy Donner got away with some stuff on the night that Jamie Lucas disappeared. And we're going to show you what Deputy Donner got away with in weeks to come. James Weyaus should not have tried to shoot and kill Deputy Attorney. He should not have turned his weapon towards Deputy Donner. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, he made a life-ending decision, and he has no one to blame for that but himself. But Deputy Donner and Deputy Sewall in particular committed what should have been career-ending criminal acts that should have landed them in prison. And once again, dirty deputies in a dirty county got protected by their dirty sheriff and their dirty county attorney, because the system is corrupt from the streets to the top and the top to the streets. It's corrupt through and through. And the government has said, we have investigated and we have found we've done nothing wrong. And so the only way to get any kind of notoriety for this is for us to share this out. It's to bring the heat on Cass County. And if that means you come into this video and you carve out sections of it, and I'm going to be putting up the video that we just showed as a video by itself. Right, Elijah Hansen? Minnesota has always had corrupt law enforcement. 100% agree. If you want to come in here and carve it up and you want to show parts of it or whatnot, I don't care if you give me credit. I would like it if you did. If you want to make shorts out of this, do it. I don't. But let's embarrass the hell out of Sheriff Brian Welk, Deputy Donner, Deputy Sewall, and the county attorney. Let's embarrass the hell out of Benjamin Lindstrom. Let's make it so, well, Brian Welk is running for sheriff. Well, Brian Welk couldn't run for, he might be able to run a couple of feet for a donut, but I don't think he could actually run for anything else. So, right. Oh, and this is 100% true. This goes back to the 1920s and 30s when the mafia would come here for summer. Yeah, absolutely. Very close to me was it Dillinger? No, Capone. Very close to me. It might have been Capone and Dillinger that were close, but Capone for sure had a hideout very close to where I live. Embarrass them. Just make sure that they're seeing this. Send them this video and email. Send an email to the Cass County attorney. Send an email to the Cass County sheriff saying, hey, have you seen this? And let's just, just keep it going. Holding government accountable is not harassment. And as Spike Cohen, the libertarian activist who I just absolutely admire, says all the time, let's bully the government online every day. Be peaceful. Don't make threats, but just bully them with the evidence of their corruption every day. And like I said, I've said about so many, I would love for them to try and silence me. I would love for them to try and shut me down. Shut me down. Come after me. Try to shut my channel down. Try and find a way to come after me civilly. That'd be, I would enjoy that. Do you know that I'm not even going to get, I don't want to ruin it, but I would love that. I would love for them to try and come after me. Benjamin Lindstrom, please come after me. Brian Welk, please come after me. Brian, you're probably short of breath. Just thinking about having to walk to a computer and write an email to me. But Benny boy, oh gosh, Ben, I would love for you to come after me. I may not have your education, but I have you on a hook for your corruption. And we are going to show it. Remember, folks, you back to blue until it happens to you. And this is a perfect case of what happens when a good shoot turns into criminal activity by cops. And if you think this is the only case where this happens, you're crazy. It happens in Minnesota more than you would care to admit. So stay tuned, folks. We're going to have more coming out in the next week. If you haven't yet, please head over to my Substack and subscribe. Follow me there. If you want to read what I have going on behind the scenes, you can choose to buy a membership, monthly membership, or if you want to partner with me, you can head over to my Give, Send, Go. I'll have the link in the description of this video. You can choose to partner with me there. By partnering with me there, you get at least a limited amount of time to behind the scenes access to my Substack. And if you give a certain amount, you can get lifetime access. And I've already started to release my memoirs there and my fictions and my fiction writing and my poetry. So, my friends, until next time, fight for your freedom. It is yours. Fight for your liberty. It belongs to you. And sic semper tyrannis.
We are going for liftoff in T-minus 30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at